As I'm sure you're aware, here in the UK we're experiencing a serious cost of living crisis.
The cost of living crisis.
Will I be cut off if I can't pay my energy bill?
It's no surprise that more and more people are being forced to seek alternative means of living. We want to give you an honest opinion of what it's really like living on a narrowboat. We'll start off by answering one of our most asked questions, which was how much did you pay for your boat?
Now, a little backstory. We bought the boat whilst we were in Italy, in southern Italy, and we were living in our van. We renovated that, we converted it from an empty shell, I guess, to be able to live in it. We went across Europe for 6 months, had the best time. COVID would start, the restrictions were starting to happen again, and we were thinking what was our next adventure going to be. Joe spends a lot of time on eBay and came across a narrowboat. We love walking along the canal that's near us, and I don't know, we just sort of joked about it. One thing led to another. It was a real joke. And then before you know it, Joe's dad's going to go look at it, and we've put a deposit down. So neither of us had ever been on a narrowboat before, never really.
Not even a holiday.
No.
A lot of people get hooked from having narrowboat holidays and then going to buy one, but we, just completely blind.
I think we were quite naive at the time. But here we are, living on our boat now, which is amazing.
A year and a half or 2 years later?
A year and a half. Nearly 2 years now.
Yeah.
So we've been renovating it for the best part of a year. I mean, it's probably been 18 months since we had it now, but we've been away to America for 3 months, and we haven't been doing it full time, but
3 months we're in America?
Yeah.
I thought it was 3 weeks for some reason. That was wow.
So in this video now, we're going to give you sort of like the rundown of like pros and cons of what we can think of comparing an narrowboat to a house, and they're obviously very different. So the initial cost, so it cost us £12,000. Now, we didn't really have that money, but once we sold our van, we then had the money back from the van, so we were fortunate enough to be able to do that. They do vary a lot in price, don't they?
Yeah, so it's quite rare that you'll find an empty narrowboat come up for sale, which is why I was quite keen on jumping on it, because what a lot of people seem to do is spend, you can get a second-hand narrowboat fitted out that you could live on for around £30,000 upwards, but what ends up happening is people will take a piece out here or take a wall out here, and next minute you end up stripping a whole boat.
We did want an empty one as well, and because when we did the van, we were very fortunate. It was on a drive. When we needed tools, we could go get the tools. Being here and having to take things out of the boat, you've got to factor in that you can't exactly get a skip on the towpath. You would have to do that step by step, which would take a lot of time.
So we were continuous cruising whilst we renovated it for the most part, which meant hauling materials up and down the towpath and moving it every 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we've got, sorry if we look at this, we just want to get everything right that we've written down.
So many figures.
Yeah. So a new sail away, so that would be a new boat. So we've compared this to boats that are size, so 50 foot, and also when we get onto the house, we've done a 1 or 2 bed, because that's what we would have if we had a house now, wouldn't it be?
So if you wanted to buy a brand new equivalent of what we bought, a sail away, which means an empty hull with an engine and gearbox, ours sort of moved, didn't it?
Just about.
Roughly. That would cost you about £50,000 from Collingwood, which I think is one of the cheaper builders, so about 50,000, but you're going to be looking at least a year to 2 years wait time now, because more and more people, like we said, are looking for alternative ways of living.
Yeah.
If you're in a rush, your only option is to buy second hand and either live with how your boat is and slowly do it up.
Yeah.
Or
which
buy
a lot
a
of
cheaper
people
one.
do, don't they?
There's plenty of boats out there that are fully livable. They are priced normally £1,000 per foot for a decent one. So for a fully fitted out 50 foot, 50 grand roughly, and they can come down in price.
They vary a lot though, and it's hit and miss, isn't it?
At the minute as well, because there's relatively high demand still, it's sloped off a little bit now compared to when it was fully in the pandemic. What was I going to say? I forgot where I was going with that.
So...
No, hang on, no, it is there somewhere. I swear it's in there somewhere. What was I trying to say? What was I talking about? Buying a boat. Prices, because of the pandemic, were slightly inflated, but they've started to come down a little bit now, so it's a little bit easier to get hold of one. It's the same as
vans, though, they are still in high demand, everyone's just looking for alternative ways to go on holiday and just things like that. I would say as well, it says we've spent 15k on here, you've put, I would say it's a bit more than that.
15 to 20k on renovating it. So it's cost us, maths, come on, 12 plus 20, 32.
20, yeah, 32.
Cost us about 32,000 to do it.
But that's a lot of
including
time
the
as
boat.
well.
And
Time.
a year's
You've done a lot of
hard
it.
graft, yeah.
Our family have really helped us, and we've had like friends that we've made along the way that have helped us as well. So
I would say we probably could have done it quicker. We definitely could have. We filmed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it was the first project that we filmed renovating from start to finish. We started to film the van but found it too hard, so why do a bigger project and film that? Probably could have done it in 6 months. Seriously.
Yeah.
Every time I was cutting a piece of wood, you have to go move the camera like a couple of times. Yeah. But we've got those videos forever now, and they do generate a little bit of income, which might touch on a bit later on in the video.
Yeah. So comparing that, so obviously we paid 12,000. That was in our budget. That's not for everyone. We can understand that. You can get loans for a boat. I think they have sort of like mortgages for boats, but they are few and far between.
Yeah.
But I know some people that have done that, and then that's basically like paying for rent or paying for a mortgage essentially, because then you get to keep the boat at the end. Yeah. So that's definitely something to look into.
If anyone's familiar with Cruise in Alba, Miles and Rainer, they had a boat loan on theirs. They've done a similar video a couple of years ago, I want to say, or a year ago.
It's probably not that long.
And they factored that into their cost, because obviously if you're buying a boat, theirs is a bit longer than ours, so their boat might have even been 60 or 70 grand, which is almost buying a flat territory sort of money. So a mortgage does make sense on that.
Yeah, we've paid as we've gone. Like I've been working throughout the build, trying to be here as much as I can for Joe, but we have sort of just paid for this as we go. You know, some months we can't buy the thing we wanted, we have to wait for the next month, and that's okay. You know, it's just a working project really.
Yeah, the initial one, before I forget, the initial money came from when we sold our van, so we got...
I did say that, I think.
Did you?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Yeah, no,
that was the bulk of it. That paid for buying the van, buying the boat.
Yeah.
I need a coffee. So to compare our boat to houses, if you're going to live in a house, obviously either buy it outright if you're really wealthy, but mainly going to be a mortgage or renting. In our area, you had it on your Lloyd's app, keeps prodding us to try and get a mortgage, and they said average house price in our area is £250,000.
Yeah.
And they'd want a deposit of 25 grand, so 10%.
Yeah. But when we went to the bank the other day for something completely separate, we wouldn't be able to get a mortgage. Although even if we had, say, that 25,000 in the bank, which we definitely do not, it really depends on your income. At the moment, although I'm getting paid, I'm a 0 hours contract, so they need to see me working for a good 2 or 3 years, and the fact that you've left your job to sort of try and give YouTube a go. So at the moment, even though they're trying to prod us for a mortgage, they wouldn't actually give us one anyway. So it's really hard to get a mortgage. So we asked some of you on Instagram if you would let us know sort of your monthly outgoings.
Super nosy of us.
Thank you very much for that. It sort of varies. Obviously, cities are a lot more. One of our friends who lives in Bristol in a 2-bed, that was up to 1,500, and that was just for the rent. But in towns, which I guess is where we would live if we weren't in on a boat, was between sort of 550 and sort of £900, which is quite a lot. If you had a mortgage, that down payment, then you have cheaper payments, don't you? Normally, I would say.
For some reason, mortgages are less than rent.
Yeah, but you
get to keep the house at the end, but you need that deposit and that steady income. And so many people could afford to buy a house, but it's just like the odds are against you, aren't they? Sorry if we're switching between subjects, but we've got it all written down here, and it makes sense on paper. Probably won't on video. Monthly costs of a boat are relatively low, and they can be. You've got two options essentially. You can either have a marina, like we have at the minute, or you can continuous cruise, move every 2 weeks like we were when we were doing the boat up. So our main cost every month is marina. That's done, everything in the boat was done per length and width of your boat. Ours is a narrow boat and 50 foot, so we pay £267 per month to park our boat essentially.
That varies very much. I think we're not in the cheapest area, but we're definitely not the most expensive either. Like again, if you go to cities, reasonable. Then it's a lot more again, and if you go up north again, I think it's cheaper as well.
And they're harder to come by around here as well. So if you go further up north or in the Midlands, there's so many more marinas, so many more canals, but we're sort of stuck on the Kennet and Avon, and there's only so many marinas, and it's quite a popular one for holiday boaters and stuff, for rentals.
Yeah.
And it's just it's fairly
beautiful.
crowded. Yeah, and typically we'd love to be in the Midlands, but family and friends are here, so we're sort of stuck on one of the most expensive canals.
We will go up there. Everyone keeps saying, why have you not gone yet? And you've like, your boat's nearly done. And that's all great, well and saying, but I need to work. Like you know, I can't just up and leave at the moment. We want to save, although we could live off of what we make off YouTube and travel. Like, we want to save. Like, there's other things we want to be doing. Before I'm 30, I want to travel to every country in Europe. We still got a lot of travelling that we want to do, and maybe we do want to buy a house in the future, so we will get there. We definitely want to see more of the UK, and we want to explore the canals, but you know, it's just not the right time for us at the moment.
3 months in America definitely dented the old bank.
Next thing is canal and river trust license. So again, that depends on the length of your boat, as we've said. Ours is $970 per year, and that is cheaper when you pay for it in one lump sum rather than paying for it monthly.
I was thinking about that. I don't know if they only let you do it 6 monthly and 12 monthly now. I can't remember, but you can you?
I think you pay it monthly.
But anyway, it's definitely cheaper to buy it per year. So that works out about 80 quid a month on that. And that is the closest thing that we get to a council tax, essentially. So that pays for water and bins and
toilet drop off
when you're cruising. In the marina, you pay for it twice almost, because the marina's got all of those facilities. And then it's really energy costs. So we are pretty much off grid. We generate all of our own electricity. The only thing really is gas and diesel. So at the minute we're in a marina, we're using no diesel at all. Apart from when it gets colder, we will use our diesel heater, but that uses minimal. And gas is probably, we've not even got through our first bottle yet, and we've been using gas for about 6 months. So maybe 2 of those a year, and they are 38 quid a bottle. At the minute, they're going up in October though, like everything. But
with diesel as well though, like, because we're not using it at the moment, if we were continuously cruising, we would use it, but ultimately we probably wouldn't be paying for marina if we were continuously cruising. So the amount that we'd save on the marina, I don't know how much it adds up to, how fair that is.
You'd
but
never use that much.
No,
so
but still, it's like adds.
Yeah,
it's like leveling it out a bit, isn't it?
You use like every hour of cruising. If your engine's running okay, you probably do about 1 litre per hour. And
our engine's not okay.
And you get to use red diesel on a boat at the minute. They keep changing their minds whether it's allowed or not, but it's still about £1.40 a litre. So if someone do the maths, it doesn't use that much diesel, to be fair.
Going back to continuous cruising, one point that we made obviously is every 2 weeks you've got to move the boat. That is quite of a grey area. Not really sure how far it says to the next boat, but we had a ticket once because we didn't move it far enough. So there is obviously a limit. Can't really see that online. You have got to move at least 20 miles a year, which doesn't sound that much, but when you only go sort of 2 to 4 miles an hour, like, that is actually quite far. Then we've got insurance. So again, done on length. Ours is £142 a month. I think
that's for a year.
£142 per year. Now, some of you guys sent us how much you pay for home insurance, and it's probably about the same, maybe a little bit more, to be fair, but again, that really depends on what you've got insured in your house.
I sort of compare it to car insurance, in which case it seems really cheap. And that is thanks to Craft Insure. A little plug for them. They've been looking after us pretty much since we had our boat, so go and have a look at their website. Super easy to use. Try not to turn that into an advert, but they are great.
Joe has installed a hookup, so when we're at Marina we could use the electric here, but like Joe says, we've got 100% solar. That's what we're being powered by, so we don't need to. But one of you guys said on Instagram that you're paying about £10 a week for a hookup because you don't have any sort of solar system, which, I mean, it's cheaper than I thought it would be, but obviously if you can get power from the sun, then it's a no-brainer, really. Yeah,
that's quite cheap, £40 a month.
Yeah,
but again, with it might double shortly, which 80, which is again a fairly hefty bill. Which almost, well, that will be as much as your license.
How are we splitting this all up without it just blowing into one big thing? Just put like maintenance.
So maintaining a boat is quite a big cost. It's not every month, but ideally you should probably be putting some money back per month, because when stuff does go wrong or stuff does need maintaining, it can be quite expensive and a bit of a shock. Now luckily our boat was out of the water and blacked. Now, blacking is basically painting the underside of the boat in tar or bitumen, and that should be done every 4 years, and that stops it rusting too much. Then every 4 years as well, you've got things called anodes, which stop essentially, I think, electricity in the water, because your boat is earthing itself I might be wrong about this. I know someone's going to correct me. But anodes are like sacrificial bits of metal that corrode before your hull does, and they need replacing.
I find that fascinating. I don't really understand how that works.
Yeah, it's weird. What else for maintenance? Oh, so
boat safety certificates. So we had that done as soon as we had the boat. It failed, but then it passed. You're meant to have that done every 4 years.
In between an MOT and having like the gas man round to check everything's safe and electrics and stuff. So every 4 years, he'll come out, do a series of tests. That cost 180, maybe 200 quid.
The guy doesn't fix anything, does he? He just says
no,
what's
I know,
wrong.
just tells you what's wrong. Yeah. So, what's that work out? If it's every 4 years, roughly £50 a year for your BSS.
But then that could lead on to thousands of pounds of problems.
Yeah.
You've also just put on here like general maintenance, things go wrong, like there's more of a greater chance. I mean, you're floating for a start. There's the engine which you rely on, especially if you're constantly cruising, and you know, it just feels like it's a never ending. I know we're still building it, but it does feel never ending on this boat.
It really helps if you're somewhat hands-on, know a little bit about wiring.
You have to be hands-on.
Yeah, I mean, just stuff will happen and stuff will need changing, and to save quite a bit of a fortune of a call-out, or even someone coming to change your water pump when that inevitably packs in because you haven't got mains water, you're literally relying on this little battery-powered pump to go, which again, can be a little bit annoying.
Yeah.
Are we going to do pros and cons?
I'm used to that now. I find it quite comforting. When we were first in the van and I heard that, I was like, what is this?
Especially, it's normally, well, for both of our projects, it's been mounted underneath the bed, so if anyone wants a glass of water at night, it's like...
So then going on to house, the only thing we've got under here is general maintenance, which I guess, again, a house is
Houses can be expensive. The roof... everything,
like boilers and things. Like how I say, like things on a boat are expensive, but I guess a house is expensive.
What a house really,
yeah. Like there's a lot more rooms on a house to go wrong, isn't there? Really.
New roofs like 50 grand on some houses, maybe more.
God. Right. Pros and cons. So now we're going to go on to boat pros. Yeah. And just to give you a heads up, there's definitely more pros on a house than there are on a boat. We've been really trying to think of some, but yeah, it's definitely in our eyes anyway. Let us know if you can think of any more or some things that you would add. So pros of being on a boat, our top one is being around nature. You are forced to be around nature whether you like it or not. The weathers are extreme, you know, you're outside, I know you're outside to get inside your house, but it just feels like you're at one, you know, you've got your neighbours, which are some cygnets and swans and some ducks. It is beautiful, and I love foraging. We're on a towpath, you can just you know, you really see the seasons on a boat, I would say.
Like summer on a narrowboat down by the canal, everyone's happy, everyone's saying, oh, hello, just walking past. Honestly, every like 10 seconds there's someone walking past saying hello and smiling.
That goes on to another one, that's more community. So community on a narrowboat, just everyone's so friendly, like it does feel like a real community, you know. We've lived in a couple places in the southwest, and you know, I'm not saying anything bad about neighbours, but on a boat it's just this
something
real,
else. Everyone's in the same boat, pardon the pun, but everyone knows how hard it can be in the winter. And it's just nice. We've had a few drinks with people before in the summer, and it's nice. You're
able to up and move. If you don't like your neighbours or you don't like your surroundings, then you can go somewhere else. You know, we love travelling, so that was really what brought us into wanting a boat. We wanted to do something a bit different and to be able to travel still, but obviously have a bit more of a base than perhaps a van is.
Because with van life, it's quite frowned upon in the UK. Everyone's getting moved on unless you pay for campsites every night, which are quite expensive. There's no real place, whereas the canal sort of set out for people to move about and live this sort of lifestyle. And it's just great. I hope it continues. I'm not sure how long it's been. Sort of like the 90s, the Kennet and Avon opened back up as sort of a holiday thing in the UK, maybe a bit earlier in some parts, but in the Kennet and Avon, it's roughly the 90s it got opened back up and loads of holiday boats came. And then some people took it the next step and did it full time and just lived on a boat.
Next we've got forced to slow down. I guess that connects with nature, but you know, your boat goes about 2 to 4 miles an hour. Like, you are forced to slow down.
Unless you're one of them naughty boaters going flat out past more boats.
Don't do that. Cheaper to run, smaller space, it heats up quickly. Not much more to say about it. And so, last point,
it's just cool, isn't it?
It is cool. Like, we live on a boat. How cool is that when you say to people every time? It's part of my personality now. I hate it, but if people ask me, I'm like, yeah, I live on a boat. They're like, you live on a boat? I'm like, yeah, I live on a boat.
I'm surprised by how many people are so amazed by it still.
Yeah.
But I guess not that many people do in the grand scheme of things.
And like we said, where we are in the country, we are sort of the bottom bit of the towpath of the canal. So if we go anywhere further south, then there aren't any canals, you know.
No,
so
there's. I mean, there's some people down on the little. There's one in Exmouth which is landlocked, so they can't get any further. There's one in Bridgewater.
Yeah.
Somerset, not the Bridgewater Canal, there's Bridgewater Somerset Canal, sort of landlocked. But they're talking of connecting them back up at some point. There's another one. Hopefully, he's going to connect the Kennet and Avon back up. What's that one called? I can't remember.
Grand
but
Union?
there'll be another one just not far from Devizes that we can go from the
nice.
Midlands rather than having to go to Oxford and up. So they are developing it by the looks of it.
Yeah. So now house pros.
House pros, easy.
Easier. I mean, that goes into cons of a boat, but you don't have to think about anything. Water is just there. You don't have to think about where you go to the toilet. It's gonna overrun. Like, it is just easier. I don't think you appreciate it until you live in like a boat or a van. How easy or how fortunate. Maybe if you've been travelling to different countries, then you realise how fortunate we actually are, and people really take that for granted. Water on tap, gas on tap.
Yeah, it's all connected. You can park outside your house.
You can park outside, all your food shopping, you can just take it in. It's great. It's just easier for work, maybe if you've got kids as well, like it's just easier being in one space for them perhaps, if that's something you're into.
The other thing to talk about as well is we are on a leisure mooring at the minute because we're away 3 or 4 days. They're easier to come by. Now, if you actually wanted to live in a marina and get a residential one, they are really quite hard to get hold of.
Yeah.
They do what they call a high usage one here, but I still don't think you can get your post delivered or anything.
Yeah.
So in terms of registering for doctors and stuff like that, it's quite difficult, especially if you're continuous cruising.
All of our posts and stuff go to our parents.
So that is one thing that...
You're going off of my house pros
but
here.
I had to remember it.
So yeah, we've put post, just having your post, wanting
delivered.
to deliver something. I mean, like there's Amazon boxes and stuff now, which are really great for boaters. But yeah, having your post delivered. Space. I mean, I quite like the small space, but yeah, there's a lot of things over here that I've had to sacrifice. Much to Joe not believing. I really want an air fryer. Let me know if you think I should get one, because Joe says no. Garden. Again, we are very fortunate with our boat. It was the first boat we picked, so we weren't really picky, but we have got a lovely outdoor space, and eventually we would like some sort of like veg garden on top of the roof. So we will make best of it. You know, some people in flats don't have a garden at all, do they?
Yeah, you can get... Again, there's so many ifs and buts, but you can get moorings with nice little bit of garden, but they're all full. Everyone wants them, and anyone that's been in a marina for years is sort of in the queue to go and get one of those with a garden. So
recycling and bins. Now, being in a marina is a bit easier, but if you're on the towpath, then recycling and bins are few and far between, unfortunately. I mean, we haven't been too far along the canal yet, but from following lots of people on Instagram, you know, in the winter they're like collecting their rubbish just because they're nowhere near bins or recycling. Wi-Fi. Our Wi-Fi is very patchy. Is that good?
It's gotten better now. I've sort of... I don't know if you won't be able to see it, but our Wi-Fi router is just sort of poking outside the boat.
Yeah.
It doesn't like being inside metal. We've got a like antenna thing in the post coming.
We're not too bad here, but I know going along the canal, it is beautiful to you know, unplug. But ultimately, if Joe's trying to edit and trying to upload a video, you don't want to spend all half.
Or just want to watch YouTube or something.
Yeah, you don't want to spend all day like trying to upload a video.
No, not fun. So one thing to factor in, if you're going to buy a house, generally it's a good investment. And I mean, looking at how house prices have come in the past 10 years, I can't remember, it divides back and you're almost making like £20,000-30,000 a year profit if you were to sell your house because of appreciation, which you just don't get on a boat really.
Yeah.
And that is something to factor in terms of that sort of takes away from buying a boat, because there's if you can afford to get a house, it's almost worth getting a house.
Not many people can. That's
not many people can. Yeah.
Now, boat cons.
Tons of them.
Yeah,
there's
goes on
such a long list.
So emptying a toilet.
You need to become really familiar with an L sound point. A bit too familiar sometimes.
I think from us having the van,
Yeah.
from having the van first, I think we sort of acclimatise ourselves to a lot of things, like filling up the water and emptying the toilet.
Yeah.
But those are definitely cons.
Yeah.
Something that you need to factor in. Water's a lot easier in a marina. We've got one right at the end, and we'll get a bit comfortable, to be honest, because once you're on a towpath, you have got to be a bit more limited with your water and think about, I probably can't have that bath yet because we're not going to go to a water point for another like 3 days, you know.
And our water roughly lasts 3 to 4 days if we stretched out our water tank. So within every 3 or 4 days, you're gonna have to make a trip somewhere. And like Dan said, they're few and far between, really, the water points. But I mean, if there's somewhere you really want to be, you can go to a water point, fill up, turn around, come back.
Yeah,
it's part of it, really, isn't it? So living on a boat is quite hands-on. Changing gas bottles. I mean, my mum and dad have got bottled gas anyway, so but if you're used to sort of gas which just taps straight into your house, you need to change gas bottles. Luckily that's only once every 6 months roughly for us.
Still heavy though, especially if you're on your own, or you know.
If you're cruising, luckily, I say luckily, hang on, I'm going off.
Stop going off. This is good. This video, these poor guys are going to be watching this for like 2 hours.
So to get supplies to your boat, which is especially handy in winter and stuff when you need firewood and coal and gas, there are, what do you call them, like merchant boats, shop boats, what do they call?
They go past from the local chandlers, aren't they?
Yeah, and they drop off supplies. You can pre-organise it, and
they probably
drop it
cost
right
a bit
to your
more,
boat.
but again,
the
it's
hassle of driving, picking it up, and then having to wheel it along the towpath, just not worth it.
Can they do the gas?
They do.
They just do
gas
swap the bottles
and diesel as well. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Another con is weather extremes. Now, I like heat as much as the next person, but it is hot in here. It went up to 43, and that was out without us being in here. And also, it's gone down to 1.1, but I think that was minus. I think that's just as much as our temperature gauge shows. So yeah, it is freezing cold in the winter, and we haven't actually spent the whole winter on it yet. So
I wish us luck.
Yeah, wish us luck on that. Risk of sinking.
Yeah.
We're on a boat.
Yeah, and water is your enemy. You're floating. It's sort of your saviour and your downfall, isn't it? There's a chance of your bilges filling up. Generally, it'll come in through the stern gland. That's the most sort of common point.
Yeah.
But just check your bilges. We've got an automatic bilge pump, which if any water gets in, it'll pump it out. But
you can hear it all the time.
I mean, they can fail, and your batteries can run out. Loads of stuff can happen, and your boat can sink. They do sink. It's awful when it happens.
Heartbreaking.
As you go and cruise along the canal, you'll see occasional boats that have sunk. It's really sad. I need a wee.
Toilet break over. It's dangerous.
Can be dangerous.
Especially if you've got little kids, or maybe a doggo or a cat. One of our neighbours has got a cat, and the other night I heard I was half falling, half asleep, and then I heard this plopping like a cat. And I looked out, I opened the hatches, and I couldn't see anything. And the next day our neighbour said, "Oh yeah, his cat came in. She must have fell in the canal." So in that respect, it is a bit dangerous.
Oh, he said you come in
and I'm clumsy.
Soaking wet, looking proud, wouldn't you?
Yeah, bless her, little Amber.
Yeah, it can be dangerous. Locks and stuff.
Walking along the lock
plank.
when it's shut, or the plank as well. I've hurt myself. I really got a bruise falling off the side. You have got to be careful.
Went in, didn't you?
Yeah. I don't know why I'm laughing because it really hurt. Dropping things in the canal. I've lost my phone. I've lost, I don't know what else, but I lost my phone.
Tools.
I was wearing these sort of dungarees actually. I had my phone in it like this, and it just went. I heard it go plop, and there goes my phone.
Brand new iPhone 13.
We were going to America
Pro?
2 weeks
Max?
after. Yeah, brand new. So yeah, you've got to be careful. Lots of people magnet fish.
Yeah.
We definitely need to get a magnet to just try and get bits out. But the canal, because of all the grey water goes in it, it's just so silty at the bottom. You can't begin to you won't want to get in there anyway.
No. So not so much in the summer, but towards the winter, we're really going to test our system and see how much and how long we can go for. At the minute, we barely use 2 or 3% of the capacity when using electricity. But in the winter and living on a boat in general, you are always thinking, oh, how much power is that using? Have I got enough? It's just always on the back of your mind. Yeah, it's always on the back of your mind about your batteries and stuff. So that is one thing to consider.
You're limited to the canals. This obviously still is more of a pro than living in a house, but compared to say a van where you can go anywhere, you are limited on the canals. One of our friends, shout out Meg and Jacob, they bought a boat. They lived in Weymouth, and now they've had to move further north essentially. I don't know how far Weymouth is from here, probably like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But they're actually further north at the moment. But
And this
you
was
have to
their
move
closest
away.
canal.
Yeah, you have to move away from home, which is obviously not for everybody.
One of the most common ways of heating a narrowboat is a log burner, and one of the nicest in our opinion. People ask when we put it in, like, why would you put a smelly old thing like that in? But it's just sat in here on a winter's evening with that log burner going is awesome. And that one of my favourite parts of living on a boat.
This
actually.
is the negative, though.
Oh yeah, but but the negative, you've got to keep that going overnight, otherwise it's going to be freezing in the morning.
Yeah, and it's hard work. Like more so you, obviously, you chop up the wood. We try to get free wood, so sometimes we use pallet wood, which burns a lot quicker than the stuff that you can buy, but it's storing it as well.
So we're going to whip out the top guns and get a load of nice firewood this year, stack it nice, and it just means you need less to keep you as warm because it's denser, it burns better. So we're just going to bite the bullet and get a load of decent firewood this year and see how much that costs. Yeah,
we don't know. That's obviously going to be one of our expenditures, but we can't really factor that in this because we haven't had to buy wood per se yet.
So it does, like, it's a bit annoying having to light the fire and stuff, but once it gets warm in here, it is so hot. It doesn't take too much to get warm, to be fair.
And our last con for a boat is you're isolated on the towpath. Now, that can be a pro. All of these things are really subjective, but especially in the winter months when it's dark, it is a bit scary sometimes. There's lots of thefts on the towpath, especially for bikes and sort of generators and things. So you just have got to be a bit more mindful of your surroundings, I'd say. We've got like 5 things on the house cons, but they're quite big ones, I would say. They're expensive to buy.
Yeah,
you know,
no doubt
not
about
that many people can just whip up a really big deposit. That takes time, that takes years. Some people don't have the luxury of living with families in order to save.
In which case you're renting,
and
then you've got double whammy because trying to save and rent is almost impossible for a lot of people.
And then we've put again like expensive for rent. So once you start renting, it's very hard to get out of that cycle unless you've got a really well-paid job to be able to put any sort of sensible amount away per month. Yeah. To get a mortgage, it's just really difficult for everybody.
Oh, expensive to run. I mean, we haven't done a summary of how much our boat costs versus a like-for-like flat or place locally, but they are in general expensitive to run. There's no getting away from it, is there?
Yeah.
Energy bills and stuff now.
I was
part of the reason
shocked.
for doing this video is just crazy.
I was shocked at reading. You know, we're not going to go too much into everybody's like how much everything costs, but I was shocked at how much it costs. We rented back in 2016 to 2017, I think. And that was quite a while ago, and our rent was cheap then, but I can't even imagine doing it now. To round it all up, our total cost, bearing in mind that we basically have bought this boat outright, is about £360 per month.
In a marina.
Huh? In a marina, yeah. So again, if you're constant cruising, that would
knock
be
200 quid off that, roughly.
But like we said, I know it wouldn't equal the same, but then you'd have diesel to contend with.
Yeah, I've
moving.
left 60 quid off for that. I reckon you use 60 quid a month.
Reckon?
Cruising, yeah.
So yeah, 360 a month is all of our outgoings. Obviously that doesn't include our cars, our insurance, our phone bill, internet, thing like that. But we didn't ask anybody that side. So, and then in comparison to houses, so we've said obviously mortgages probably around 500, but we're doing this mainly on rent because that's what we would be doing if we had a house now. But so rent for people was between sort of £550 to £1,000 on average, and then on top of that you've got £300 bills. Yeah,
the bills average £300.
Yeah.
So almost everyone's bills alone equal to what we spend roughly a month for everything.
Yeah, and that includes council tax, that includes gas, electric and water.
Yeah.
Those were the bills that we asked for.
So it's almost like, well, we have essentially bought our house outright, so we don't have any rent or mortgage to pay.
Yeah, but our marina is our main thing.
Yeah, the marina's the main one. If we don't have the marina, you'd be
laughing. So 360 or £1,000.
Yeah.
Average
for a 1 or 2 bed place in a town in Somerset.
But as you see, it's got a lot of cons, but I would say I would 100% rather live on a boat.
Yeah, I'd recommend it if you are up for those hardships. We're quite happy now at the minute. It's summer. It's not, well, it's been raining quite badly, but in the winter it is hard. There's no getting away from that.
The hardships are made up for the good times, honestly, living on a boat for us is just the best thing we've decision we've made for ourselves, I feel. And long may it continue until we buy a house in Italy.
Yeah.
Watch this space.
Next project.
Not for a while though, jeez.
No, we're not skin. Yeah, thanks for watching.
If you like this video, then let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it, if we've missed anything. We'd love to maybe compare living in a van to a boat, if that's something if you're interested in as well. We sort of...
No, if we haven't bored the life out of you.
Yeah,
if there's
probably
anyone
like
left
2 hours
watching
left.
this on the whole internet, I'd be surprised if anyone's left watching this.
Shout out if you're still watching the end.
We'll see you next week, maybe, hopefully.
See you next week.